Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. An explanation of something that is not immediately obvious. The act of interpreting something as expressed in an artistic performance. A performance of a musical composition or a dramatic role, etc. A coat of stucco applied to a masonry wall. Giving an acknowledgement of obligation. Perspective drawing of an architect's design. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. The act of changing in form or shape or appearance. A photograph is a translation of a scene onto a two-dimensional surface. The act of uniform movement. A uniform movement without rotation. Genetics. The process whereby genetic information coded in messenger RNA directs the formation of a specific protein at a ribosome in the cytoplasm. Mathematics. A transformation in which the origin of the coordinate system is moved to another position but the direction of each axis remains the same. Rewording something in less technical terminology. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. A written work, as a novel, that has been recast in a new form. A mental representation of the meaning or significance of something. Something a little different from others of the same type. An experimental version of the Night Fighter. An interpretation of a matter from a particular viewpoint. His version of the fight was different from mine. Manual turning of a fetus in the uterus, usually to aid delivery. An explanation of something that is not immediately obvious. The edict was subject to many interpretations. The act of interpreting something as expressed in an artistic performance. A mental representation of the meaning or significance of something. An explanation that results from interpreting something. The report included his interpretation of the forensic evidence. An explanation of something that is not immediately obvious. He annoyed us with his interpreting of parables. An explanation of something that is not immediately obvious. Often imitations are extended to provide a more accurate rendition of the child's intended meaning. The act of interpreting something as expressed in an artistic performance. Her rendition of Milton's verse was extraordinarily moving. A performance of a musical composition or a dramatic role, etc. They heard a live rendition of 3 pieces by Schubert. Handing over prisoners to the country in which a crime was committed. A written document preserving knowledge of facts or events. A written document preserving knowledge of facts or events. A statement that makes something comprehensible by describing the relevant structure or operation or circumstances, etc. The explanation was very simple. The act of explaining, making something plain or intelligible. I heard his explanation of the accident. Thought that makes something comprehensible. A dramatic or musical entertainment. They listened to 10 different performances. Process or manner of functioning or operating. They compared the cooking performance of each oven. The act of performing, of doing something successfully, using knowledge as distinguished from merely possessing it. They criticized his performance as mayor. Any recognized accomplishment. They admired his performance under stress. The act of presenting a play or a piece of music or other entertainment. We congratulated him on his performance at the rehearsal. A dramatic or musical entertainment. Put a coat on. Cover the surface of. Furnish with a surface. Coat the cake with chocolate. A thin layer covering something. A second coat of paint. Form a coat over. Dirt had coated her face. Growth of hair or wool or fur covering the body of an animal. An outer garment that has sleeves and covers the body from shoulder down, worn outdoors. Cover or provide with a coat. A decorative texture or appearance of a surface, or the substance that gives it that appearance. A thin layer covering something. The work of applying something. The surface was ready for a coating of paint. A heavy fabric suitable for coats. The act of paying money. The act of paying money. The act of paying money. An act of requiting, returning in kind. A sum of money paid or a claim discharged. Act of getting or draining something such as electricity or a liquid from a source. The drawing of water from the well. Players buy, or are given, chances and prizes are distributed by casting lots. The act of moving a load by drawing or pulling. The creation of artistic pictures or diagrams. He learned drawing from his father. An illustration that is drawn by hand and published in a book, magazine, or newspaper. It is shown by the drawing in Fig. 7. A representation of forms or objects on a surface by means of lines. Drawings of abstract forms. An incorrect translation. Brief description accompanying an illustration. Translation of foreign dialogue of a movie or TV program, usually displayed at the bottom of the screen. Provide with a caption, as of a photograph or a drawing. Taking exception, especially a quibble based on a captious argument. A mere caption unworthy of a reply. Translation of the words of a foreign opera, or choral work, projected on a screen above the stage. A card game, usually for 2 players, in which each player is dealt 6 cards and discards 1 or 2. Baby bed with high sides made of slats. A literal translation used in studying a foreign language, often used illicitly. A bin or granary for storing grains. Line with beams or planks. Crib a construction hole. Take unauthorized, intellectual material. The cards discarded by players at cribbage. Use a crib, as in an exam. Run at a moderately swift pace. A slow pace of running. A literal translation used in studying a foreign language, often used illicitly. Radicals who support Trotsky's theory that socialism must be established throughout the world by continuing revolution. A gait faster than a walk. Diagonally opposite legs strike the ground together. Cuz to trot. She trotted the horse home. Ride at a trot. Translation of foreign dialogue of a movie or TV program, usually displayed at the bottom of the screen. Secondary or explanatory title. Supply, a movie, with subtitles. Translation of the words of a foreign opera, or choral work, projected on a screen above the stage. A literal translation used in studying a foreign language, often used illicitly. A small glass adequate to hold a single swallow of whiskey. An informal term for a racehorse. Any of various breeds of small gentle horses usually less than 5 feet high at the shoulder. A range horse of the western United States. Returning to a former state. A turning or tilting backward of an organ or body part. Retroversion of the uterus. Translation back into the original language. The teacher translated Latin texts into English which he gave to his students for retroversion. An interpretation of the U.S. Constitution holding that the spirit of the times and the needs of the nation can legitimately influence judicial decisions, particularly decisions of the Supreme Court. An interpretation of the U.S. Constitution holding that the spirit of the times and the needs of the nation can legitimately influence judicial decisions, particularly decisions of the Supreme Court. Cause to spin. Spin a coin. Prolong or extend. Spin out a visit. Rapid descent of an aircraft in a steep spiral. Revolve quickly and repeatedly around one's own axis. The act of rotating rapidly. He gave the crank a spin. A distinctive interpretation, especially as used by politicians to sway public opinion. The campaign put a favorable spin on the story. A short drive in a car. He took the new car for a spin. A swift whirling motion, usually of a missile. Form a web by making a thread. Spiders spin a fine web. Make up a story. Spin a yarn. Stream in jets, of liquids. Twist and turn so as to give an intended interpretation. The president's spokesman had to spin the story to make it less embarrassing. Work natural fibers into a thread. Spin silk. A new or different interpretation. A new or different meaning.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.